Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Music, Money, and Life podcast. Today's podcast, as always, is brought to you by howtolicenseyourmusic.com. If you are a singer, songwriter, a musician, if you play in a band, if you play and write music of any sort and you're interested in learning how to license your music, check out howtolicenseyourmusic.com. Today I have a special guest. I have Mike Goudreau, who is a Canadian-based musician. And where exactly are you located in Canada, Mike?
Yeah, hi there. I'm located in the province of Quebec. We are about 100 miles south of Montreal, and we're located right on the border between Vermont, USA, and Quebec, Canada.
Nice. And were you born in Canada, or were you born in the States?
I was actually born in the U.S. A lot of people in this area were. That was the closest hospital in those days. So a lot of people that are my age that were born in this area are dual citizens. So they have American passport and they have a Canadian passport and two social security numbers too, which also makes for quite a hodgepodge and mix-up of cultures and different influences too.
Nice. And do you spend much time in the States? Do you make it down to Vermont pretty frequently?
Yeah, I gig a little bit in the States, but our area that we're more known and that we have a lot more exposure is in our own province here of Quebec. Mm-hmm. And we're regulars at the Montreal Jazz Festival, for instance, and Mont Tremblant has an international blues festival now that has, big names like Buddy Guy, and they've had tons of really famous people there too. Same with the Montreal Jazz Festival. So there's a good circuit here for the type of music that we do, which is mainly jazz and blues, at least as an artist, but I write a lot of different types of music for TV and film too.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into that. Obviously, I want to talk about some of the licensing you've done. What kind of music are you licensing stylistically? Are you doing jazz and blues stuff, or is it a little all over the place?
It's a little all over the place. Like I said, my main shtick as an artist is jazz and blues, especially blues. I would say probably a little bit more, but we write and record a variety of types of music. We do a lot of French because we speak and sing in French too. So that's kind of a little thing that sets us apart and gives us a little bit more of an edge maybe on other artists. We do French cabaret music, French pop. We also do some world music, and we also branch out in genres that are close to the roots musics like folk and country, and we do some rock. We do some Christmas music too, and so we're kind of all over the place.
Nice. How long have you, I'm looking at your website and was checking that out a little earlier today prior to this interview. Looks like you've had quite a few placements here. Can you kind of give people an idea of how much you've been licensing your music and how you got started?
I had already been recording albums since 1993. We just released our 16th album, and the albums that we release are mostly jazz and blues. And in 2007, I joined an A&R company in Los Angeles and started discovering what music licensing was, and I thought that was interesting. Since I already had a lot of music recorded, I started doing that, then, little by little made a few connections. Our first placement was in 2007 on a show called Everybody Hates Chris.
The Chris Rock show, right?
Yeah. And it was just a small placement. I mean, you could barely hear it in the background. It was in a restaurant scene, but they were looking for a French song that you could typically hear maybe in a restaurant or something like that. And we had something with accordion with a French lyric, and that got used. And so from that moment on, when I figured, well, hey, maybe I can make a little bit of money doing this besides gigging, and maybe for the future, this is maybe something for me to look at and to explore further. And then one thing led to another, and we made more and more connections. And there's a lot of hit and misses, but you kind of learn as you're going along off the cuff, and so that's the way it started for us.
Well, that's awesome. How big of a of a part of your income is licensing? Is it a pretty big chunk of your income, or is it kind of supplemental income? How do you look at it?
Yeah, it started very much as a supplement. I'd say from 2007 to 2011, I would say that it was probably only maybe 10 to 15% of my income. Gigs were still 80%, 75% of my income. But in the last 3-4 years, it's gone up to about 30 to 40%, and I'm aiming for more.
Sure.
But it's a slow process, and it takes a ton of time, and especially when you don't have there's not a sure way of going about this. So it's a little bit of trial and error and figuring out what's the best places for you to solicit for your music and the type of music that you do. And also the licensing business has been changing tremendously in the last 3 or 4 years with all these royalty-free libraries, and a lot of companies are just giving the music away now, which is really killing everything. But I think when you make good connections with solid companies, you just keep soliciting to them, and after a while you get a sense of what questions to ask, which is one of the main things that you need to learn in this is what and one of the and there's a pile of rudimentary questions that you need to ask when you're soliciting a new company. Now it's easy because I know which questions to ask, but I can tell you that I didn't at the beginning, and I made a few mistakes along the way, like I'm sure a lot of people have.
Sure. Can you give us an idea of what some of those questions are? What have you learned over the last
years? Well, the first question I ask is exclusive or non-exclusive.
Yeah.
More and more companies are going exclusive now. I have not had a whole lot of success with exclusive companies. I've had the best success with non-exclusive companies. And the second question I ask now is, do you get front fees? And if they say they don't, or they just give the music away, then I just say, well, I'm not the artist for you, and that's not the way I want to work. So, but that's a pretty good question to know. I wish I would have known that 4 years ago, because I would, my business would be different now. But like I said, it's a lot of trial and error, and it's part of learning, So it's the same thing as an artist when you're performing, and after a while, you know what clubs to book, and you know what clubs not to book. You know where you're going to be a success. You know where you're going to bomb out. So you don't book yourself in a club where you're going to bomb out.
Yeah. And are you getting most of your placements, Mike, through libraries or publishers, or a combination of both? Are you going directly to supervisors? How are you actually licensing your music?
I'm trying more and more to go direct with music supervisors, but I find it's not an easy connection to make, especially that I don't live in California where most of them are. And I'm not the type of guy that likes to suck up to people or hobnob and stuff like that. I just kind of want to let my music do the talking for me. So the internet works great for that, but it's a little more difficult to make direct connections with music supervisors directly. The best successes I've had have been with a handful of libraries. When I say handful, I mean about maybe 7 or 8 libraries that I'm with, that they're solid, they have solid connections, and they're pitching my music to the right people for the right things, and they're having success doing it. And but I can also tell you that I probably have maybe 20 or 25 libraries that are just what they call dead-end libraries. I don't think they'll ever amount to anything, maybe because they fizzled out, or they weren't able to go with the flow of how music licensing has been changing and how the rules are changing in the last couple of years.
Yeah, what you're saying is I've heard very similar scenarios from a lot of writers I work with. It seems like this is a very common sort of pattern where you initially contact, maybe dozens of different libraries, but inevitably they don't all work out, and some do and some don't. Do you, when you're looking for new libraries now, do you have any sort of, I know you mentioned like exclusive versus non-exclusive, what are you looking for? What is sort of like a sign that it's a good library or a good publisher that has some potential there?
Well, the first thing I do is if they have a website, they usually have a list of shows where they've had placements recently. You try to see if there's shows that would be likely to use some of your music, you know, if I see it's a library that all they seem to place is hip hop or metal or heavy rock, you know, any genre that I don't do, then I figure maybe this is not such a good library for me. But if they're a library that seems to do a really big variety of types of placements and where they seem to have a good track record, where they, if you see the last placement was in 2006, then maybe that's not a good library to sign with.
Yeah.
But if you see they've had, you know, songs featured on shows that are popular now, you know, whether it be on ABC or TNT or Discovery Channel or HBO or, you know, any of the big chains, where, you know, you're going to get a decent front fee. And it's like I said before too, it's also asking the questions too when you're soliciting them, and if it's a library that's accepting musicians, soliciting them, and I have a new way too now of proposing my music, because we do so many genres. I have a song page on a site called soundclick.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a site where you can post songs. It's free on top of it. So it's and you have a description, a little paragraph description of your song, and then you have the genre, and you can put the lyrics there, who are the writers, and you can even make links to each individual songs or to your whole page. And I find that libraries and music supervisors alike really like that, because they don't have to download anything and you don't have to send them MP3s. Plus, I think they like it too when they get a description, the sound alikes, and describing the song and the genre and all that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have a question for you, because I get asked this question a lot. I work with a lot of writers who seem to be really diverse stylistically. When you initially approach a new library, because you do so much, what do you send them initially? Do you just send them your SoundClick page with everything, or do you direct them to specific tracks?
Well, in my introduction email, usually I'll state the 5 or 6 genres that I think I'm maybe more strong at, you know, the jazz, the blues. And I always mention the French, because I think that's kind of a hook. That puts me in a niche, maybe apart from other composers, because we have that French language thing, and that's something that they might not have a lot of. So sometimes you'll get a nibble that way. I try to get a sense of what they're looking for, what their needs are, and or maybe what they don't have so much of in their library, and I try to send that along. Some people are very helpful, and some people are. The question I get a lot is, "Send me your best stuff," which I think is the stupidest question somebody could tell you. It's like, how are you supposed to know what's your best stuff? I mean, I'd like to think all my stuff is good.
Right, but a lot of it's just need-based, right? Like, how do you know what they need if they don't tell you, right?
Yeah, well, if they tell you, know, it's like a lot of websites where you can, send your songs in. They have descriptions to see if your songs are on target. And as soon as I see contemporary pop song, and it's just a vague description, I don't even submit, because it's like it could be anything at that point. But there's some other places that even there's one place I'm using now that they even put YouTube videos in and saying, here, we're looking for a folk pop sentimental song about a relationship ending, and then they'll put 2 or 3 YouTubes of different songs. So then you have a real good idea. I don't have anything on target for this, or I got one I got something that fits exactly for that. That I find extremely helpful when there's not enough companies that do that, unfortunately, because I think some of them are just going fishing at large. But when you have a lot of songs and you don't want to waste your time soliciting people for nothing, and you don't want to waste their time, but you also don't want to waste your time either, because time is precious, and it does take a lot of time. You know, I'm soliciting now to a library that I had success with, and it's extremely long to load up songs on their site. You got to load up the songs waves, and then you got to fill in all this metadata. So when you're doing all this work, you want to make sure, you know, that you're not wasting your time, and that you actually have an actual shot of getting your music licensed, you know. So
yeah, exactly. Do you when you're signing with these companies, do do you have any sort of indication where your music is going to be pitched? Are they coming to you like with specific projects, or are you just signing songs and then kind of waiting to see what happens?
Most of the times I'm just signing songs and waiting to see what happens, but more and more through different companies, and also when certain companies you've had a few placements, they get to know you better as a composer, and you're maybe standing out more than other composers they have in their library. I've had one library in particular solicit me more than once for French songs. We got a big placement a few years ago on a show called Dirty Sexy Money on ABC, and they wanted a song a la Edith Piaf, who's a French singer from the 40s. Something that was melancholy, that maybe had accordion, something that you might hear on a street corner, maybe on a Parisian street corner. And I had a song in that genre with accordion, acoustic guitar. It was just an instrumental, and I sent that song in, and the week after it was placed on TV. You know, there's a little bit of luck involved, of course, but it helped because I had a good description, and she had a good sense that I might have a tune in that genre.
Gotcha. So she reached out to you based on what she knew about your music.
I wish that would happen more, but it happens once in a while,
That's awesome. Have you found that, sorry to interrupt you, have you found that through licensing your music, has it helped you in terms of like CD sales and booking shows? Has it helped your overall career, or is it just a completely separate thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't see how it's helped CD sales at all. CD sales, 97% of my CD sales are still at our concerts when we play. That's where we sell most of our CDs. CD Baby works well. iTunes works well too. I think the thing is, when you have songs on TV, people hear your tune, they might even like it, but if they don't know who it is, and they don't know what the title is, and they don't know what the artist is, how the heck are they going to find you anyway? Unless you get, I've never had such a mega placement that, I was in the credits or whatever, it's just basically pretty much music at large. And I haven't, to be honest, I haven't seen any big repercussions, at least for me, on that end. I've heard of, musicians getting their songs on Grey's Anatomy, then,
or the OC.
It exploding after. But I can't say that's happened to me for the type of placements that I've been getting. But I can say, though, it does have an impact on my career in my province here in Quebec and Canada. It sets me apart from other writers because there's not a whole lot of jazz and blues writers, especially that are unsigned and totally independent as I am, producing their own music 100%, that have had, I'm up to about maybe 30 network placements, song placements in the last 7 years, 6 years. Of course I've worked, literally thousands of hours on the internet soliciting companies, uploading songs. It's not a get rich quick scheme by any means. It's hard work.
Nope, not at all. That's what I tell everybody that I work with. Is definitely not like an instant gratification sort of thing. But the nice thing is, once you get going, like there's a lot of residual income, right? Are you finding that songs are being relicensed repeatedly?
Yeah, I've got a couple songs. I got a song that's kind of like a Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis rock and roll. That thing's been licensed like 3 or 4 times.
Nice.
I guess it's just because it's got a very wide appeal, and stylistically, it's something that sounds like a lot of other things too at the same time. I guess if you want to be a totally original artist, I guess then that's not the type of song that you want to write. But for television or for multi-uses, those songs are right on target. And even when I'm doing my albums now with my own jazz and blues bands, when I'm writing songs, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be fun to perform at a jazz festival, but it'll also have a good chance of getting licensed. And the way I write the lyrics is the same thing. I try to think more general terms. Not going to write a song about my Aunt Clara. I'm going to write a song about somebody's aunt at large.
Keep it more general. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a little harder to write sometimes. It's a little more, it's a little more constricting. But if you're able to do that, then you get more bang out of your buck for your music. And I don't write and record with, with a computer and computer-generated sounds. I do it the old-school way, so it's pretty expensive. It's pretty costly to record. When we do big band songs, there's actually a big band in the studio recording, drums and horns and the whole shebang, and I got to pay all these people.
So you go into an actual studio and pay an hourly rate?
I do, yeah. I don't even have a studio, and I don't want a studio, because if I had a studio, I would have to learn how everything works. I've gotten really good at mixing. I've gotten really good at producing the music, arranging the music, but I leave the engineering to somebody else, because if I have to take all the time to learn how to do all that stuff, I'm not going to have enough time left over to write the songs and perform the songs. So
I'm the same way. Like I always tell, like there's so many people that have home studios and they try and write their own music and produce their own music and mix their own music and market their own music, and it's just so many different hats to wear, you know.
It's very difficult, you know. I have a family too. I got kids and stuff, and I want to also have a life. You know, I don't want to just be doing music 24/7. I mean, I love music. It's my life. But if I definitely need to leg out some work to other people. You know, I don't write music. I understand music and I understand arrangements, and I have a good ear. But when it comes to writing a horn arrangement, I just leave that to the guys that went to school and studied how to arrange horns, and I hire them to do it. I got good friends. I'm lucky. I have very good musicians that work with me that have musical formations, and they're educated in that sense, and I get a way better result than trying to do it on my own. And it's also a way of saving a little bit of work and cutting some corners, because like I said, it's very costly to hire everyone to do these. You know, I've had people tell me over the last 10 years, "Oh, why don't you get Pro Tools, and why don't you, you could do it. You could do it all by yourself. You're a good bass player, and you can sing, and you play the guitar, so you could just program the drums and that." But I said, "Yeah, well, I'm going to spend so much time learning how to program the drums and learning how all these machines work. It's going to really cut into my time for writing and for getting out the stuff." So I think maybe some people can do it. I know a few good writers. I know one in Vancouver. He's very, very successful. He's had tons and tons of music placements. He must be making six figures now. But he's a rare case. You know, he's a great keyboard player and a great guitar player, and he can write any style of music. You know, there's just no limits for him, and his production is just awesome. You know. And I know in the States, there's probably a pile of guys like that too, you know, so this is our competition. So I figured the only way I can get an edge on these guys is actually having real horn players that have been owning their craft for years. And even if he's a great programmer, he'll never be able to play a good sax line like a real sax player.
Yeah, it's hard to replicate that.
Although some guys are really doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, no, there's
some of his music. I'm blown away sometimes. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. And sometimes he produces stuff in half a day that sounds like it's been worked on for a month. You know, so. Yeah,
I know guys too that do all their own recording and do it really well. But for me, I just don't have I don't have a knack for it, and I don't have the patience for it, and I'm kind of like you. I'd much rather just outsource that to someone who specializes in that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mike, listen, man, I'm going to let you go. I have another call here lined up, but I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
It was my pleasure, Alan, and nice talking to you in person. We did talk on the internet a while back, and it was nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, nice to connect with you. And what I like to do is I like to end each podcast with a song. So if you have a track in mind, I don't know, maybe just send me your best song. If you can narrow it down to just your best one, just that's all I need. No, do you have does anything?
There's that question again.
What is your best track?
Song? Okay, well I can send you a good song. I'm not sure which one's my best one, but I'll try to send you. I'll try to send you something good.
Okay. Do you know which one you'll send me, or do you want to? That way, I can set it up properly.
Sure, I'll send you. Would you rather have something that was already placed on TV, or would you rather have something?
Yeah. Why don't we go with something that you've actually licensed, so we can give people sort of an idea of what you're licensing?
Sure. Okay. I'll send you. I'll send you this song here called Miss Wonderful. That was just used in a movie, a French film called Love is in the Air.
Love is in the Air was the name of the film. And the song is called Miss Wonderful?
Miss Wonderful, yeah. It's a kind of a big band song a la Sinatra.
Okay.
At least that was the listing anyway, and so it got used, so I guess it was on target.
Nice. Is it a French language film? Is it in French?
It's not. It was a French film, but it was called Love is in the Air. So I guess it was in English. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I'm supposed to get the trailer soon.
Okay.
But I know it's already been used because I got paid for it. So
awesome. Well, that's the important thing. I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. Love is in the Air. So the track is called Miss Wonderful. Again, I'm speaking with Mike Goudreau. And what is your website address if people want to learn more about you, Mike?
It's www.mikegoudreau.com. Mike is like in English, M-I-K-E. Goudreau is G-O-U-D-R-E-A-U. So MikeGoudreau.com. MikeGoudreau.com. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. Have a great day. You too.
I never thought I'd find true love. Impossible as counting the stars above. But when it hits you, all you can say is wow. I'm with Miss Wonderful now. Everything happens for a reason, they say. Oh, how you long to reach that day. When the day comes, you wanna take a bow. I'm with Miss Wonderful now. I didn't think that love could be so grand. It was all part of the master plan. When you finally make it through the storm, you feel like a baby that's just been born. I wish I had a crystal ball, then I would have never felt so small. But when my last gal gave up her vows, who cares? I'm with Miss Wonderful now. Master plan. When you finally make it through the storm, you feel like a baby that's just been born. I wish I had a crystal ball, and I would have never felt so small. But when my last gal gave up her vows, who cares? I'm with Miss Wonderful now. Miss Wonderful now. Miss Wonderful now.